Hi, Felicia.
Hi, Lindsay. Very excited.
Yes, I know. Would you feel better lying on the couch?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to being psychoanalyzed. Do you have all day?
All day.
All year, maybe?
Oh, I do.
Next decade?
Yeah, I actually, so my children saw this challenge online. They're 9 and 11. It was like the 24-hour stay in the bathroom challenge. And then my husband, who's a shrink and a lawyer, so super manipulative, somehow convinced them to do a stay in the bedroom challenge and only come out to pee. So he gave me 24 hours free.
Wow, lucky you.
Yeah. It's been rough. So, okay, I'm in love with you. I have to tell you. Yeah. I would say not hitting on you because I have to say that to my patients, but I don't have to say that to you. But
I'll take whatever love I can get.
Yeah, I know. Same. You were hysterical. By the way, I am starting my yoga teacher training this month. Yes. So that yoga thing, really, you have a little bit on yoga, which cracked me up. And I'm 43 and I'm starting right after I'm turning 43 and starting right after my birthday to get it off the bucket list, since we've only got probably a couple days left till the end of the world strikes.
Yeah. Well, it's better than trying new drugs.
I'm open to that too. I actually I really want to have pop brownies on my birthday. That is my, I know.
Is that a new drug for you? You need
to No, but my husband won't inhale anything. And so, the only problem is all the drug dealers I know are my patients and they're teenagers. So, I'll work on it. But okay, last night I watched your March 16th, 2020 special. What was it called?
The Miserable Mrs. Madison?
Yes. I realized you named it that before, but that should have been your launch pad. I mean, maybe it was. I mean, you've been doing this for long enough that wasn't your thing, and then boom, your origin story, but it was so fucking good.
Oh, thank you. Well, it started, I was writing a pilot about my life, Upper East Side mom by day, stand-up comic by night. And this was before The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Mm-hmm. And when I saw the promo, I was just finishing up my pilot when I saw the promo for The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And I say that it's a good thing I was on the ground floor, because when I jumped out the window, I didn't die.
Yes.
So I was pretty much told by people that it was just too similar. She really grabbed the market on it. And someone suggested I make it into a one-woman show and get my story out there. And then I had another story I wanted to tell, which was the story of my relationship with my father. Nice. So when I was developing the one-woman show and I was telling people the different stories, everyone loved my father's story. So I ended up weaving the two of them together and named it The Miserable Mrs. Madison, which explains, not only my relationship with my father, but my journey into why I did this. And the tagline of the show is, "It's never too late to find your marvelous."
It's and that relationship with your father is so beautiful. And by the way, I just watched you trying to get your mother to talk about who her favorite comedian is. And she's like, no one, I hate everyone. I'm like, no, that would be my mom. That's cool.
Yeah, well, hence all my disorders.
Yeah, right. But it was so good. And I related, when I saw the date on it, my heart dropped, because my first book had a launch date and a launch party at the Cradle of Aviation Museum in Long Island of March 18th, 2020. Yeah. And of course we closed. So, my lifelong dream sort of has fallen on, it's a tree that fell in the forest that no one fucking heard it. So there'll be more. It's not a thing. But I really felt like, man, in an alternate universe, there was so much brilliance in this, and so much to relate to, show not tell of, yes, writing class, teachers,
Yeah, no, I got a really good review, and I previewed it on that date. I was actually in the Fringe Festival, I think the year before.
Okay.
But one of the things I wanted to do this in quarantine was to rework it and figure out a way to put it out there, because it was my first effort, and since it got such great reviews, I was thinking about redoing it. And a lot of the stuff that I wasn't really from me, that was sort of put in by other people that I was working with, was the stuff that got the worst reviews. So I'm
Okay.
going to extract a lot and figure out how I want to rework it if I can find the time.
Right. But isn't that a lesson in like confidence and trusting your gut right there, you know?
Yeah, it's in life. You always, I always, it's sort of my mantra. It gets me in trouble at times, but I always like to go with my gut and say what I feel. And I feel like, I remember when I was younger, even when I'm advising my kids with dating, I never like to play games. I just get it out there. And if it doesn't work for some reason, at least I know it was the true, honest me.
Yeah.
And that person didn't like that true, honest me. So, fuck them. Ooh, can I say that on this?
Yes, please. Yes. Please. It's funny. That's my attitude with patients. I'm not vanilla. Like I was trained like psychoanalytic, I did a postdoc, lie on the couch, I had to do 500 hours of fucking therapy on the Upper West Side where I probably paid her mortgage off. But when it got time to sitting in that room and being a blank slate, I don't do blank slate very well at all. Like, if my morning.
Some people don't like it though. It's, I've lost friends and boyfriends and jobs.
What about husbands? I think that might be.
So far, I've got a saint.
Yeah.
I test his limits every day though, but yeah, so far so good.
Yeah, mine's off the grid in all ways, and really, I think we have an unspoken agreement. Don't go anywhere near my social media, sweetheart. And that makes it work,
That would be a good book title.
Yes, it would. But he's also a shrink and a lawyer. So
that's a bad combination. That's actually a good combination.
No, it's not. I mean, I like to say I am now a lawyer as well because of semen all these years. He is when he argues, he was a public defender in Brooklyn. So when he argues as if he repeats himself and he belabors the point, and I'm like, this isn't a courtroom. And then we started graduate school together, so our first few fights were all about it evolved into, well, you're saying that because your mother did this. And so it was fun. I really liked marriage. It's going really well.
You guys are like one-on-one therapy for each other. You're like two therapists, like. So I don't. That's interesting. It must be hard to win an argument.
It is, and the word validate comes up a lot out of his mouth, and so I don't use it.
I like that word. I'm going to use that in my arguments from now on.
Okay.
Validate. I'm writing it down.
Validate me. Good. But what it basically means is you need to agree with me even if you don't. I don't do that well. I'm not so good
Me
at
neither.
that. Me neither. I can't. So how did you finally get get the balls, grow a pair? How did you finally make the leap?
Well, something I was thinking about for a really long time. I think all through child rearing, I felt a pang of not being satisfied.
Yeah.
Just in case my kids are listening.
Oh, my kids know my kids. I'm sorry. Okay.
And I was always coming up with ideas, always thinking of things. And I was always the type of person that in social situations was making jokes. And I had a friend that in our social circles that was a comedian. And I always used to say to him, one day I'm going to try it. One day I'm going to try it. And when my second child was going to college, and my little one wanted nothing to do with me for most of her life, I decided to give it a try, and I took a class with Manhattan Comedy School, which is what my friend recommended. And I took it with a friend, and we had a graduation class. and they videotape it and send it to you. And I am very hypercritical of myself. I'm like never really happy with anything. And I was super nervous about watching the video. And I finally, after 2 weeks of nail biting, I decided to watch it. And it wasn't bad. And for me, that's like winning an Oscar.
Yeah. By the way, no, you're the first Jewish woman that I've ever met that's neurotic. So that's weird. Really odd, yeah. You know, but I think like the beauty of watching you and of your humor is that like it is tough to make a white Jewish princess, for lack of a better word, relatable. Like, and you do, and that's where that father connection comes in, and that's where like that deeper, not that your childhood wasn't perfect, just in case your kids are listening, but you know, that's where that deeper level of your humor comes in. And I just I was watching it last night, you know this, I had the vodka in me, you know this, and I sent off an email that I was just like, oh my God, I'm so excited. It was so fantastic and relatable, and like
it's funny you say that though, because I recently sent it to someone to look at it because I've been, as I said, rethinking it, and her comment was this was for the screenplay, not the one woman show, is that the lead character is not believable or relatable. And I responded to her by saying, you know, you do realize this is autobiographical.
Where does she live, and have you I mean, I have so many questions about that.
It might just be the way the pilot was written. I was trying to like cover a lot of different characters. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't relate to everyone. I find a lot of people might be like, you know, and this is what I say in a comedy routine is, you know, people were like, why did you go on stage? And I said, because when I'm on stage, I'm heard and people react to me. And when I'm home, you know, I disappear, and I actually do an act where I like put my,
I saw that,
and I actually disappear. So it's hard. It's very hard being, you know, I joke around in comedy about being a mom. They always say is the hardest job in the world or the best job. And it is a really hard job because no one really ever validates you. It's like, I joke around, like, it's like going to the office and your boss saying, you suck, I hate you, you're the worst, can you leave?
Yeah.
You heard that every day at your office, you'd probably quit.
I do hear that every day in my own.
Yeah, so it's hard. They don't appreciate you until they're gone and realize like I say, you know, my mom always gives me the best advice with my kids and my family and everything. And I'm always like, where was she when I was growing up?
Right.
And she told me growing up that I shouldn't be just a mom, that I should do something else. Being a mom is just a very ungratifying job. And I said to her, it was ungratifying because you did such a lousy job at it.
I don't think you did.
I know. And I said, I'm going to do it better and show you. And then I became a mom and realized she was right. It's just the nature of the beast. You don't realize it until you grow up and leave the house and on your own, that your mother, what she did was not because she hated you or mean or bad. It's just what you have to do to parent.
I think it depends on your mother. I've got a different one. But I do hear you. I mean, I started the podcast on a whim with a friend. She left because she wanted to focus on different stuff. And I had found this was my voice to talk about things that I had never been allowed to talk about in my childhood, you know, like what went on behind closed doors. And I do this with confidence because they know I have a podcast, but every time a topic comes up, my dad asks me if I've seen the show God Friended Me, because apparently one of the characters has a podcast. And my mom still doesn't know if I'm a psychologist or a psychiatrist. So I feel like all secrets are safe with me, you know. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and I really think she resented it, or certainly resented me, and then had adjusted to it by the time she got to my brother. My brother is the Spitfire as the second child, or was the Spitfire as the second child. My daughter as the second child is that one who doesn't give a fuck if I'm around or not. So
right. So is the second or third?
Yeah. I needed to get some sleep, and children prevented that, so I couldn't do a third. Otherwise, I would have though. But yeah, I hear you. And I love that. I don't understand how it could not be relatable, because like, God, I don't know.
Well, a lot of people I find in general, and this is like a mental health awareness thing. I do a joke that I haven't perfected yet. It doesn't get a great response, but I always tell people that I struggle with depression, and the response is always, "Oh, but you have a beautiful home and you have a great family and a loving husband. How could you be, you have like all the two houses and all this stuff?" And I said I was depressed, not inferior to you.
Right. Right.
Some people think that,
I
just
actually
because I
think
have
I
everything,
like
I
that,
can't
though.
be depressed.
I like that so much, the inferior thing. I think you can't use it, but I like it so much. Because it's spot on. It also hits like there's envy, there's jealousy, and there's you don't get to feel this way.
Well, people don't say that to you when you have cancer, like, "Oh, but you have it all. How can you have cancer?"
I
And
know.
it's like, it's a disease. I don't have a choice.
Right. No, trust me. I'm a therapist, and someone will come to me and I will tell them after like 6 to 8 months, if I feel that they need medicine. If I feel they need it sooner, I'll say it sooner, but like, I'll be like, I think you should do it. And then it's a discussion. And I have actually said to people in frustration, if I told you had cancer, would we be still having a discussion about what would be the best way? Mental health is not appreciated. It's also, we're not supposed to talk about it. I interviewed over the weekend, and I spoke to Jim Norton, and he is great for discussing like, mental health and suicide and all that shit. And when I was trying to use the book to raise awareness to prevent teen suicide, because we had a slew of them this time last year, like in my small town, and this woman reached out and was like, so we don't use the word stigma, even if it's destigmatized, because that triggers people. And I wanted to kill her, actually, because
Well, you should say, I like triggering people.
I do. I actually do. I have a blog on Psychology Today. I wrote a whole blog post about how that's how we get through post-traumatic stress disorder. We trigger them. Like, that's what had happened, which is not to say, rape, etc. But yeah, people don't understand mental health, and the fact that we joke about it is what we're not allowed to do. And yet now we're in fast forward 6-ish months, and now we're in 6 months. Now we're in a place where there's other things we're not allowed to, or that we can't talk about, or that are still frightening a bit to talk about or to joke about. And I don't know how there are jokes that we made 6 months ago that I don't know if they're going to fly today.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the jokes that were made a couple of weeks ago, that won't fly today. It's the ever-changing landscape of comedy, which is pretty sad. A lot of comedians talk about that. It's, what we do and what we're good at is, pushing the envelope and getting to the edge of controversy, and it's getting a lot of comedians in trouble, and it's not good. It's bad for the comedy world.
So you think we should not? You think we should?
Yeah, we should push the
Okay.
envelope. We should, yeah. But I think, it's like a lot of comedians talk about how they hate going on college tours now and performing to college students because they're so politically correct.
That's true. That's true.
It's annoying. It's like the older generation is better. The younger generations, you can't say, boo.
My 9-year-old took some classes online at this out school, whatever, over the summer, like some drama classes. And when she runs into my office one day and she goes, "What are my pronouns? What are my pronouns?" I was like, "What?" And like asking her in the class what her pronouns are. So, it's true. There's a lot of tiptoeing around, and I think that is the job of comedians, to push the envelope, to make people uncomfortable, to make them laugh and think about what they're laughing at.
Yeah, like one of the things I had the hardest time, which I've given up on making fun of, is my weight, because I'm not heavy. Like I joke around.
No shit. Yeah.
I joke around from the Upper East Side, and if you get to be larger than a size 2, you get replaced.
Yeah.
So I'm like a beached whale for where I'm from. But in the general community, when I would do it, people would just like look at me like, and they would instantly dislike me because like, who the fuck is this skinny woman like making fun of herself that she's heavy? So I tried for so long because it was such a huge part of my life was
Yeah.
my eating disorders.
Right.
And I just gave up because I would people would literally yell out during my show, "You're not fat."
That's not helpful.
I'm like, tell my mother.
Yeah, right. Like, how is that helpful? Like, this is based on an early childhood and things that were told to me for years and growing up on the East Side. So go figure.
Not even early childhood. I went out to dinner with my family and my mom was there, and she ordered this big, beautiful lasagna dish, and she couldn't finish it, so she was offering it to everyone. And I took a spoonful of it, and then I went to reach and take a second spoonful of it, and she pushed it away from me and said, "Some things never change," in front of my whole family. And they all looked at me like, "Oh, now we get it."
Yeah, I remember like going to the movie theater with my dad one summer when I was working out 4 or 5 hours a day to burn off every calorie I ate. Spoiler alert, I got over it. But I remember going to the movies and saying no to popcorn and him expressing a pride in me that was unlike any other I'd ever, like there was such, I mean, I grew up in Boca Raton, Florida. It's essentially, it's a less cool Upper East, Upper West Side. So,
yeah.
And now I'm in Hewlett, which is just Boca moved up
on steroids.
Yeah. So I hear it, but I think that's our job. And I don't know what it's going to be like moving. Listen, we, Sunday, we were having a few drinks by the pool, and the house next to ours is empty, and there were clearly some kids there, like breaking bottles, whatever. So, we called the police just to like check on it because there shouldn't be, and Corona, and I guess I've now hit that point of being a upper class stuffy white bitch. I don't even know what like
a Karen,
except slightly less racist, hopefully. But when the policeman showed up and we went out to see them, I was like, we were explaining that story to them, and then as they walked away, I thought humor was called for, and I said, "Don't shoot them."
Oh God, didn't go well.
He just rolled his eyes. Like, listen, I probably smelled like whiskey, and but I think when I get uncomfortable, I make jokes.
Yeah.
Not
well, the response being to that would be, well, they're not black, so he won't.
Right. And I know they're not black because I'm it. Right. Which is awful, obviously. But like, I don't know. I don't know what comedians are going to be like moving forward. Like, is it going to be more reserved? What do you think?
I think I think everything in life, the pendulum swings one way really far,
totally.
and then it meets somewhere in the middle. And I think we're in really difficult times, and the pendulum is swinging way far to the right or left. I don't know which way.
Left.
Yeah. It will eventually find middle, but what worries me about the comedy world is the cancel culture that's going on.
Yeah.
And we discuss that a lot I have a new talk show called Broadish, and we discuss that a lot. And the general consensus has been, if someone like owns a certain part of their like personality, like Louis C.K. has always been a disgusting comic,
Sure.
talking about disgusting things. So what he did was sort of in line with, his persona and his belief. But just recently, like Jim Gaffigan had lashed out about Trump and was cursing, and it's not really cancel culture, but people don't like that, and they think it's not in line with his values. And the same thing with Bill Cosby. If not that what he did would ever be justified, but he had this wholesome, wonderful family kind of life. And the same thing with Ellen. She had this, I'm great, kind, wonderful person, and now we find out, that she's this mean, nasty, allegedly mean, nasty bitch. Because that's the other problem I have with this cancel culture is people will believe what they hear.
I like her more now that she's a mean, nasty bitch.
Makes her more relatable and real, right?
Yeah, kind of. I definitely feel like it's better than all the happy shit. I mean, it's fine. I can't believe anyone's one-dimensional,
Yeah, but I don't think people like the phoniness. They didn't like they were being duped. Like, it was okay that she's that way and we like her that way, but you feel like they're being a little insincere. Like, the one thing you could say about Trump is what you see is what you get.
Yes.
You know, I feel like with Obama and Biden, there's an agenda that they're hiding what they really want. And they're, you know, on the one hand, you have to be able to filter your thoughts so that they're politically correct. And in Trump's case, presidential. He's not presidential in any way, shape, or form.
No.
But I don't think anyone likes when they put up an image of themselves that gets shattered and they see the real true self.
I agree.
So getting back to your comedy point, I do think it will come back and hopefully equalize. And I think comedians will continue to push the envelope. And if they're true to who they are and themselves and they stick to their grounds, I think they'll survive.
Right, which is interesting. But I also think that, like, I think that some of the more, I don't know what I want to call it. Unfortunately, this guy in my town, he's like the town asshole, and he's also like a Republican racist. Like, he's everything bad at you. He was upset about the MTV Music Awards happening. Like,
Why?
because I guess they had canceled the 9/11 tribute. Although anything that comes out of his mouth, I think, is incorrect. But but he was really upset about that, and so he's always what I think of when I think of someone who just likes to fight because he likes to fight. And his daughter's also a bitch, and she's a third grader, and I feel comfortable saying that. But you know, I feel like people that were more edgy, and not just edgy for the sake of being edgy, but like I don't know. I don't think racism is ever funny, but I think the ability to recognize stereotypes and therefore dismantle them is a way to address, you know, racism.
Right. I think the problem and why comedy is so good is that people are afraid to address racism. And what's happened is, you know, in light of this whole Karen episode, people are asking these racist women to shut up and get the hell out of here. And that is not a good way to open up dialogue and educate people.
Right.
That's a good way to get them to back into their corner and come back raging mad in a week or two.
Sure.
So I think comedy allows people to address those touchy, tenuous subjects with humor that will allow people to think about it and relook at it in a different way.
Right. In psychology, that one of the 8 trillion cognitive biases that we've identified is and I don't even remember what it's called, but it's basically doubling down. Like, if someone tries to contradict your point, you double down on it harder. Also, like, early on, following the George Floyd thing, I posted something and was declared a racist, and I because I said the wrong thing and I was attacked rather than educated. And I really don't think I'm any more racist than the average person. In fact, if anything, I think the fact that I'm aware of my white privilege and my town's white privilege, which makes sometimes into raging assholes, but like makes me open to learning and also perhaps more aware, less racist. Also, we're both well-educated women, so there's that.
I would venture to say that every white person is mildly racist.
Sure.
In the
Subconscious
fact
bias, yeah.
that we have no idea or understanding of what it's like to be anything other than ourselves.
Agreed.
And that lack of understandable unawareness, because we just couldn't be expected to understand that, you know, is what happens. You know, I just think, and then I think if you have to do the best. Like, the one thing I found in my talk show is we were talking about police brutality and defunding the police. And as a white woman, that triggers me.
Yeah.
And as a black woman, you know, she was triggered by it. And we came down to the basic tenet was, I view the police as someone that protects me.
Right.
She views the police as someone that she would never in a million years call to help her unless she were on the floor bleeding out. And I would never have seen that had I not had that conversation with her, or never understood that.
Right.
and that's why I like to open discussion between people as opposed to putting your hand out and stopping the talk and name calling and being, like you say, doubling down on someone. It doesn't accomplish anything.
No, it doesn't. And listen, racism has an inherent biological basis. Mind you, so does murder, but that doesn't mean we should still do it. We hunter-gatherer society, people that looked like us were more likely to share our genetic code and have the same interests as us. And there were tribes, and there was fire, and there was whatever. But we've got smartphones now. Although that basis is still there, that doesn't mean we shouldn't make attempts to educate and move beyond. And then there's also obviously an anger and a frustration from BIPOC, people of color. Tomorrow there'll be a new term that I don't know probably, but about it's not our job to educate. And I understand, but I also think it's if I learned something from you during this, that's phenomenal. I already have. I've learned broad show. I'm going to ask you later. But if I if we can learn from people, why shouldn't we? And so and to learn from an emotional level, not a factual, because that doesn't convey the message the same way. Just like the example that you gave about this woman that you were talking to, and the difference in
I also learned that you can never change the mind of radical thinkers.
Okay.
You can only change the mind of people in the middle, and because those are the people that are willing to listen and learn.
Right.
And if you have someone on an extreme, they don't listen, and they don't rationalize. So there's no way, they're extremists. So there's no way you can change their point of view.
Right. So Freud, who was super fucked up, and creepy, but whatever, but he, he spoke about the id, which is the wants, and the superego, which is the shoulds, and how it's the job of your ego to come up with a compromise. And then when it can't come up with an acceptable compromise between what you want and what you should do, it uses a defense mechanism. And I think, that extremism is also a defense mechanism, so that you don't have to look at the gray areas of a subject, the topic. And so it's difficult. I do think it's part of the job of being a comedian, is to make people think, though.
Yeah, no, and do it in a way that's not, in your face, shut the fuck up, but makes you laugh and think about it.
Right.
So it's a way to discuss touchy topics without making someone angry, but by making them laugh at themselves.
I agree. Joe Rogan has a podcast that's really good, and he talks about controversial stuff. And wow, he's actually really smart in addition to being all of the other things I thought he was all these years, but he talks about tough subjects, and and it makes you think if you're open to it. And there's another comedian whose name I'm forgetting, but I just watched his thing I'm looking to see if I wrote it down, but his whole thing is to say purposely inflammatory, it might be Anthony Jeselnik.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the stand-up because I'm not easily put off. I would always rather hang with boys than to hang with Muffy. No offense, Muffy.
Right. We actually just discussed that on our last podcast, and it went along on the same modes of what we were saying. He's always been that way, and that's been the way he is, and that's how he built his comedy up. So in a way, it's acceptable. But yeah, he's pretty controversial.
I didn't find him controversial. I know that's the point of it, but I didn't. When it starts off by saying I'm gonna say shit to upset you.
Yeah. And that's always the way he's honest. He's open. That's the way he's always been. There's no holds barred. It's, I don't know where that expression comes from, but whatever.
It helps that he's looks like a young, cute college kid. College kid.
Yeah, I've actually never seen his stand up. I've heard a lot about it, so I'm gonna watch after we hang up. I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah,
I know he's obviously very popular and people like him, but.
I just discovered him. So, and I literally just discovered him because, yes, my pandemic panic has been soothed by, 5:30 a.m. 2-hour workouts and then lots of booze at night. So. One of them's got to stop though. But so I started watching a lot of comedy while I'm working out, and then getting in touch with comics that were previously on the podcast. Alice Chan. So she was on a year ago. Yeah, about a little more than a year ago. And then she connected me to some people, and then I used some people I just stalked the shit out of until I got through. But I think, it's sort of like what we thought was bad before. I feel like we just woke up and it's like 1940, or 1920. And
I think it's going to get worse before it gets better too.
I do too. I actually, so I'm very active in my PTA, by the way. And I actually signed up to be on every fucking committee this year because I don't think anything's going to happen. So, I'm thrilled. But also, like, in the PTA, like, everyone's pretty, but not everyone's smart. So that's a fun place to be. So, because, there you've got like that little advantage. But I know that things are fucked because, like, we're getting messages about meetings, and they're meeting in person, and I was like, well, can we do a Zoom? Oh, good idea. We never thought about that. Oh, good. And then I got an email for a second grade meet and greet on Friday for my kid to meet his or her teacher, but I don't have any second graders. And like my kids are doing remote learning, and I received their bus passes in the mail, So I think we're all fucked, and it's gonna get worse. And then some of the local colleges just closed for
yeah, that's so sad for these kids. I mean, just so sad. I had two seniors this year, one graduating from high school, one graduating from college, and I hate complaining when there's like so much horrible stuff going on about, but it was just so much loss. And now my little one's starting freshman year with, everything on Zoom or, socially distanced learning. And just, I said that, Olivia Jade, Lori Loughlin's daughter, would be better off going to jail than USC dorms.
This is true. This is 100% true. And she'd be more likely to get out,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's just the restrictions they're putting on them, and everything that they're taking away from them. Not to mention the fact that, my daughter has two like self-taught classes. They're basically on video, and you take your time.
We call that them. Asynchronous. I call it asshole. I haven't come up with something funny. I'm pissed. Like,
well, I did. I'm excited. My daughter's finally going to be binge watching something other than Gossip Girl.
Okay, you got it. I'll take it. Yes. Or binge watching something that's not on Netflix,
Yeah. Who knows? They might put it on Netflix. They'll probably get a lot of views. Probably better than a lot of the Netflix stuff they're putting out.
Which is true. I mean, that is true. That is true. Which is what led me to true crime, and then comedians also. Crazy. But yeah, I think it's a weird year. I mean, I have a 4th grader, and my son's going into 7th grade. My daughter was put in class with all the mean girls, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, the mean girls thing is
no crimes,
like, yeah. I mean, I that's another thing I'm working on. Like, people were so excited about Mean Girls on Broadway. I'm like, I see Mean Girls every day on Park Avenue.
Yes.
I like the fact that they're just Mean Girls is like, it never changes. Like, I talked to my mom, who's, I won't say her age, but she's up there, about all the stuff that like I go through and my daughter goes through, and she tells me like, I still deal with that stuff, and I'm like, that does not make me feel better. You're like in your 80s and you're still dealing with like mean woman shit. That's just like depressing.
I agree. We have Mean Girls. PTA, Mean Girls a lot too. But again, it helps when they're stupid, because then I just sort of shake my head. But my daughter last year, obviously before March, some point. So she came home one day and told me that that Republican asshole that I was talking about, his daughter, they would walk by each other in the hall, and my daughter, to be polite, said, "Hi, blank." And she said, "Hi yourself, ugly face." And I was like, and I said, but the shrink in me was like, "Well, how do you feel about that?" And she goes, "I know I'm beautiful. She's just a B." I was like,
Yeah.
okay. Now, since the pandemic, she would say bitch. She doesn't know the word cunt, or she would say that too. But like,
Yeah,
but I was
I always
proud.
tell my kids that, just obviously they're lacking something in their life that they feel the need they have to do that, and you should just feel sorry for them.
Yeah. I agree. I actually went a step further and told her, if it happens again, you get one pass from me, and you have two options. You either tell her to fuck off very loudly, which gets the teacher's attention, or you can push her once hard. Um, and she won't do it again. And, my
Like a
daughter's,
dog.
yeah, my daughter's like, really? I was like, yes, let her go pick on someone else. And she will. So,
Well,
you know.
yeah, funny.
No, I don't think Mean Girls ever change, but I think we can choose who we spend time with.
Well, I think, I've been collaborating with a lot of women lately, and this one woman that has a website called Cool Life, she told me that collaboration is the new competition. And I think females in general and every species is hardwired to, fight for the male, fight
Yeah,
for,
100%. Yeah.
fight other women off, fight other females off. And that's something that if we don't overcome that and don't work through that, we'll never, ever really succeed.
Right. I mean, if you look at social aggression, the difference between social aggression in males versus females is huge. And um, men, like, they'll punch each other and then go out for a beer, but like
Yeah.
by the age of 5, girls are like icing out other girls, and it's a competition, and it's like who's the best friend, and the cooler you are, the more the competition for like who's the best friend. And it's I refuse to use that word anymore. I declare favorite people, not best friend, and stop telling me, like I'm trying to drill that into my kid's head. But what's interesting is, like, when we first started, and I mentioned Amy Beltman, who I also had interviewed, and like, her, and like, so now it's one of her points was like, you walk into like like, I guess, audition, is that what you do call it? Audition, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. And like, it's mostly like young white males, and so there's I don't know if it becomes bonding or competition to be like the woman who, in the room, who's not dropping their panties over the young white males.
Well, the problem is there aren't a lot of women in powers of authority for younger women or even older women
Right.
to go to ask for advice. And what I've found in my career to date is, and in my life, even when I was not in this career and I was in other careers, men, when you call them, they'll find the time to talk to you.
Yeah.
Or they'll refer you to someone else. I can't tell you how many times I've reached out to women and I've heard, I'm really busy, good luck to you.
Yeah.
I have a family, I have my work, I have, they're handling everything and they don't have time. And that's justifiable. But women need you.
Yeah.
We need help. We need to learn, and we need advice. And if other women can't help other women, then we might succeed, and we probably will succeed, but it'll be easier and helpful if we were there to help one another.
Right.
And I think
Well,
it's unacceptable for a woman to say to another woman when they're introduced, I don't have the time.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe I don't have time for coffee. Like my friend said, I'll talk to you, but I don't have time for coffee. That's fine.
Yeah.
But we have to learn how to help one another.
Right.
And yes, you're a mother, and yes, you're a business person, and yes, you're very busy. But I've never heard a man say to anyone or to me, "Oh, sorry, I can't talk to you. I have a lot going on with my family and my work and everything."
A, do you think it's because you're pretty? And B, I think that's because men don't have to identify primarily as a mom. Like, it took me a while for my bio not to say mother before doctor. But you also, I keep looking at my notes. Is it laughing affairs? I feel like you're working towards
Yeah, originally I started out.
Yeah.
So originally when I started doing stand-up, the problem I ran into is being a mom with, children. And I was doing a lot of shows downtown at the clubs. And my friends were just either tired at night or their kids were home at night, or they just didn't want to come down. The comedy was not their cup of tea because there was a lot of like young people making jokes about things that they just couldn't relate to, obviously, because they weren't dealing with like, being able to pay for Plan B, which I have a whole joke on that. So I decided to bring comedy to them, and I started doing lunchtime comedy when their kids were napping or the kids were in school. And so I started Laughing Affairs, and that sort of started the ball rolling to then doing open mics during the day. So I started a noon mic at a bar downtown, a bar in the basement, not downtown on the Upper East Side, which was hugely successful. I thought I would just get like the Amy Veltmans of the world and the moms, but I ended up getting really successful up and coming comedians because they didn't have a daytime job because this was their full job, or they were coming into the city for the weekend and wanted to run their sets. And that's when West Side Comedy Club opened. And then I lost the space, moved to West Side Comedy Club, started doing my lunches there. Their new talent person had left. So since I was doing such a good job with my mics and my new talent, they put me in charge of new talent, and that went really well. And I started putting on great shows. And then I started producing some great shows. And then the booker left, and they asked me, and the booker recommended me to take over for booking the club.
Gotcha.
So that was the trajectory of that, which was pretty exciting for me. And then COVID hit.
I'm confused by the fact that, like, don't you want to be on stage? I tried editing. I had to edit 26 pieces, like guest writers for this book I wrote. And although it was fantastic because I never did it, like, I don't know. I get confused about the booker trajectory of comedians. Like, I get that it's like a cool thing, but
it's not really a trajectory. I'm like one of the rare comedians that's a booker. It's sort of, I always say that I just decided to throw a bunch of shit against the wall and see what stuck.
That's how I do therapy.
Yeah. Well, and the problem is now I'm looking at a really shitty wall.
Gotcha.
So everything's stuck. Like everything I do has been working, but nothing has, there's no flowers growing out of the shit now. I'm waiting for one of them to like, start blooming. One of my piles of shit to start blooming flowers, and it hasn't happened yet. So I don't think you
garden. I don't think you garden. I don't think you should either. Like, I don't think you should. But yes.
I think, originally producing shows is sort of like a means to an end. Like I started producing my lunchtime shows for stage time. I think a lot of comedians in the beginning do that because, you have to make your own opportunities. You can't wait.
Right.
And quite frankly, as an older woman, people aren't waiting to discover the next, old woman. They want a young up and comer that they could like say, I discovered her, and then watch her trajectory and see her climb. And yes, people always say to me, oh, but Phyllis Diller was 40 when she was discovered. And I said, that would make me feel good if I were 40.
Right.
And yeah, she's one person in like a gazillion comedians. So yeah, it can happen, but I'm not being courted by, the downtown cool clubs. Look at this, Upper East Side mom that started doing comedy. I'm a dime a dozen, and I'm not really, the future. So
I don't see you as a dime a dozen. But fine.
Well, not exactly, but I mean, it's because like someone joked once that if one more housewife goes into comedy, it's like the new Tupperware lady.
It's actually Rodan and Fields, but fine, whatever.
Yeah, but it's the new Maisel phenomenon. Everyone's like, I could do it. She makes it look so easy. Like I could do that. But yeah, so I also say that I would come off of stage on a produced show that was such a great show, and my friends would walk up to me, or people would walk up to me afterwards and remind you I just got off of stage doing a stand-up routine, and be like, oh my God, you produce such great shows. I'm like, I was just on stage.
Yeah, they
You have
didn't
nothing
know
to say
that.
about my comedy, no. And then the same thing happened with my one woman show. They're like, "Oh my God, your one woman show was so amazing. You should concentrate on that." So I haven't gotten a hint yet that like maybe stand up's not for me, but I enjoy it. I love it. I loved the one woman show more because I liked the opportunity to tell a
Yes.
story and give a message, which eventually does happen with stand up, but not until you're like Dave Chappelle and have like an hour special and you could have a theme. I kind of equate it to interior design. Like when you're beginner interior designer, this is such an Upper East Side white
I have
lady
never
analogy.
been. Yeah, I know. I'm like, this is very bougie. Go on, keep going. This is gonna be super Karen. Yeah.
When you're a beginner interior designer, I mean, because I studied interior design, I was going to do it, and I remember I asked one of my friends was my first client, and I told her everything that I wanted to do, and she said, "Yeah, I'm going to do it my way." And that's when I decided I didn't want to do interior design. But when you're a beginner, you have to listen to what the client wants.
Right.
You have to follow their vision. But when you're a successful interior designer, it's like, this is my vision and you're going to listen to it.
Yeah.
And you get to be able to do that. So the analogy is when you're a beginner comedian, you kind of have to play by the rules, and it's like a 5-minute short set that needs a laugh every 8 seconds. So it's hard to develop a narrative and a story and tell a story. You need like a long set, and you need to be a celebrity that people just like want to like look at you on stage. It doesn't matter if they're not laughing every 5 seconds.
But again, beautiful. So that's helpful. But I will tell you that like I actually in the last few weeks when I started this curious project of who will talk to me, it's been the women who connected me to other women and not the males. Like no male comic that I spoke to was like, you know who else you might want to talk to? They're very nice, but no one really hooked me up with any other. It was the women who all did, and then they'd make intros, and then they, so.
Well, male comics are a certain breed.
So I haven't met. Well, I also think this is not the time to evaluate male comics because I feel they are struggling and bitter.
Yeah, like I said, it's hard to be a white man in any field right now. But it's also now hard to be a white woman, thanks to Karen.
Yeah, thanks.
So they're becoming a little bit, and this will be a huge controversy, but no small violins being played for us, but we're becoming the new, underdogs.
Yeah, I don't think you're allowed to say that. I think you're probably gonna get shot now, but
yeah.
But I understand.
I said no violins playing for us. We deserve it.
I understand. Felicia, thank you so much. I'm gonna include it in my show notes, obviously, but where can people follow you? Where is Broad Show?
So you can follow me on social media. On Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and now TikTok. I had a one hit wonder. I had one joke had like 165,000 likes. The rest, like nothing.
I'll have my 11-year-old tell me how to find it. Okay.
Yeah. And I just started a new show called The Broadest Show. It's on YouTube, and it also has @Broadest Show on Instagram, where you can follow and find out where to see it on YouTube if you can't find it. But if you just Google Broadest Show, it will pop up. And we've done 5 shows. It's a diverse group of women talking about a broad variety and topics and dishing on them. Hence Broadish.
I got it. And broad.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So I don't know why I just ended it with awesome. That was awful. But thank you so much. This was wonderful.
This was a lot of fun. Now can I lie down and can you psychoanalyze?